So now we're going to look at a really common problem. It's a little bit more involved than what we've just been looking at with oral hygiene, and it's the problem of indigestion. So lots of us, probably everybody watching this video, has had indigestion at some time or other. So let's have a look at it in depth and see what's going on and see what we can do to help it. So indigestion is really the term that we use to bundle together a whole lot of different features that really relate to poor motility in the upper gut. Not just poor motility, but problems with secretions, secreting at the wrong time or the wrong amounts of things. Sometimes it's directly triggered by medications or being nervous or something like that. Essentially, it does boil down mostly to poor motility and poorly timed secretion. Let's go a little bit more deeply into what indigestion means and what the features of it are. Features commonly are things like discomfort. It might be mild, it might be quite painful, maybe some cramping in the gut, in the stomach area. We get a bit of gas, a bit of trapped wind, a bit of trapped air in the upper GI, often in the stomach, and then we're burping a little bit, and that can be uncomfortable as well. Then we get a little bit of nausea, so we feel sick and we feel like we want to be sick, we're not, but when we tend to feel that as part of our indigestion. And then finally we may get a little bit of acid reflux, a bit of a burning sensation in the chest. And these are the features, the common features of indigestion which we've all experienced at some time. The other way I like to describe it is that feeling that you get when you've eaten something and the food just sits like a ball high up in your stomach and you just wish that thing would move and it doesn't, and it stays there for ages. You're getting a clear idea of what we're talking about. Lots of causes for indigestion beyond what I've said. Could be because we've eaten too quickly, it could be because we don't tolerate certain foods on our plate, it could be that it's too spicy for us right now. I think a common scenario is when we're convalescing, we've been ill for a while, and then we're off our food, we've got low appetite, and when we do eat we get some indigestion. Sometimes it's due to more profound problems like disturbances in the gut flora if we've had lots of antibiotics. So sometimes people get a temporary spell of indigestion after they've been on a course of antibiotics. That's pretty common. All in all, it's all about this reduced upper GI function, upper digestive function. It gets more common as we get older, mainly because our digestive transit slows down and our secretions get less efficient as we get older. It's a common thing for me to see in clinic, people in their retirement years with recurrent indigestion who've lost interest in food, and we'll actually look at a case about this at the end of this piece on indigestion. So we're going to have a look at some treatment ideas about simple interventions around uncomplicated indigestion. And really, because it's a collection of symptoms, like we've already described, mostly related to poor digestion and secretions, there are many herbs that can help with that, that stimulate things to happen at the right place and the right time and get things back into order. And those herbs include the following. Top of our list is always going to be the bitters. So bitters that at a low, gentle dose help to stimulate all of our reflexes through the gut. They wake our nervous system up. They wake our enzyme secretion up so that things are alert and ready and primed for when we eat. So always, 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 we want to dose those bitters before we eat to prime everything, get it ready to move. Also, we're going to find that bitters help with smooth muscle motion through the gut, so that things tend to then proceed in a more helpful manner through the tract. The other thing that helps with that aspect is the use of carminative herbs, usually essential oil rich herbs that help to relax the smooth muscles if they're getting too tight, but not relax them too much. It just helps ease the passage so that the muscles behave in more helpful ways and help the food move onward appropriately. Some other action words that are helpful for indigestion include antacids, so that's a common feature in indigestion. So something that reduces acid production a little bit, not too much because we need it for digestion, but just calms down any excess, and if we're getting a bit of reflux and a bit of burning, it helps to make that a bit more comfortable. Then of course, if we are getting a bit of reflux, if we are getting a bit of burning, we want some anti-inflammatories there as well. Herbs that help to calm the troubled mucosa. We're back to our mucosa again. And because we're thinking of mucosa, it helps to have something vulnerary there too, something that's going to help heal any areas that have got a little bit overinflamed. And then finally, Because for so many of us, indigestion is related to nervous system stress and rushing our meals and so forth. And because we're not really in that relaxed mode for digestion, a lot of us do well around indigestion to take some relaxing nervous system herbs, things that particularly have an affinity for the digestive tract, like chamomile, like lemon balm and so forth. Let's put some of this together now into a formula, and I will be indicating which herbs relate to which actions as we go. Let's have a look at that now. So here's our indigestion tincture. Top of our list again is dandelion root. So we've talked about this already. And dandelion root is a bitter herb. It acts on the liver, gets the bile to release a bit more from the liver and from the gallbladder. And it helps to stimulate normal transit through the gut, because bile is one of the things that naturally helps to generate healthy motility through the gut. It also stimulates release of enzymes, so that our pancreas is going to release some enzymes, and it helps a bit of saliva from the mouth, a little bit of appropriate stomach acid production, enzymes in the stomach, enzymes from the pancreas, so that everything is going to be there at the right time to digest our food. So this is helping motility and secretion levels, and then we're going to digest a little bit better. So on its own, dandelion's doing a lot of what we want to do already. Next in our formula is meadowsweet. So meadowsweet is gently astringent at this kind of dose. It's not too astringent. It's going to calm any swelling, any discomfort in the gut. And it's going to also be very anti-inflammatory and somewhat antacid as well at this dose. So it's going to help to calm down any excess acid and reduce that. Next up is chamomile. So chamomile, anti-inflammatory, vulnerary. We've talked about it already in the mouth. Here it's doing good for us in the stomach and the esophagus. So it's going to be also gently bitter, gently encouraging the onward motion of the food. It's somewhat carminative if we prepare it right and if we've got a good quality tincture. So all of this together means chamomile is a key herb here to manage various aspects of indigestion, and not least of which it being vulnerary, so it helps to heal up any damaged areas in the gut. A bit of lemon balm comes next. So lemon balm, carminative, nervine, relaxant, very much has a gut affinity. Just be sure when you're putting lemon balm in your formula that you're choosing a fresh preparation of lemon balm. Those fresh preparations contain more of the essential oils, which are powerful in the nervous system, which are powerfully carminative and relax the gut and so forth. And then just to add a final little turbocharge to the carminative idea, we put some ginger at the bottom. So ginger, a little bit bitter, certainly very carminative. This seems to help normalize those aspects of indigestion. And also ginger is exceptional at reminding the stomach to empty out in the right direction. So if you're a little bit nauseous and so on, it gets onward movement to happen a bit more quickly and our stomach empties faster. So then we don't have this tight ball sitting high, feeling uncomfortable for hours on end. So ginger is a great thing to add, just a small amount like that in this tincture. So there we have it. How are we going to dose it? You can see the dosage instructions there. It's just a single dose with every meal. So I've put 5 ml 3 times a day. If you were eating smaller meals more times a day, you might be able to take a 4th dose. I wouldn't take more than 4 doses of that at 5 ml. But really you want to take this just before you eat, because then it starts to prime everything. It starts to wake the system up, starts to get secretions going. It starts to get the motility moving in a helpful manner. And it helps to just draw the body's attention to the gut. So in a sense, this kind of formula helps us to get into that rest and digest mode, because it says to the body, well, stop flying off all over here and over there. Just settle on what we're doing right now, which is eating and digesting. So it kind of brings the focus in, if you like, to the gut. Finally, I thought it would be fun just to look at a case from my own practice, just to give you a little insight how I might apply this to a person in clinic. So I'm going to give you a formula, I'm going to give you a bit of information about this person, and then explain why I did what I did and how I put it together. Some of the herbs are the same, as you'll see. Most of the herbs are the same. There's just one new one there. So let's have a look at that and have a look at this study. So this was an elderly lady in her 80s with poor appetite. This is so many people in that age group. And I'm sure a lot of you have had this experience. You've been to visit one of your older relatives and you find them there at the dinner table, picking up their food, not having much appetite, not enjoying their food anymore. Perhaps in their earlier life, they used to love food and dining out and socializing with the family over a meal. And now they just don't enjoy that. The food is just the bare minimum that they can get away with just to survive, because it all just feels uncomfortable. So this is millions of people out there who suffer with these simple problems, and there's an easy fix. It's interesting, actually, just an aside about that, because in other cultures, there are traditions of using bitter aperitifs, things that people take as they get older, to do exactly what we've talked about. They contain carminatives and bitters and so forth, things that wake the digestive system up and get it moving more efficiently and helpfully. And in our culture, we've lost that. People don't use these bitter aperitifs or digestive tonics. So I think it's a lost kind of secret art that we need to bring back into our lives. And but in the meantime, lots of patients like this arrive at my door and say, well, what can you do to help me with this? Because it's like, I used to really enjoy food and now I don't. So let's see what we did here. So this lady in her 80s, poor appetite, not enjoying her food. She's got sluggish digestion and a bit of constipation. So there we got another story about poor motility through the gut. It all needs waking up. It all needs to work more efficiently. She's got a bit of trapped air, a bit of gas and bloating. Her circulation is a bit poor, and generally she's feeling exhausted and a bit low in mood. And this is not surprising, because she's digesting poorly, and because she's lost interest in food, she's just not eating very much anymore, and she's not eating enough to feel vibrant and happy and with a zest for life. When I see a patient like that, unless they've got other complicated stories going on, I pretty much know this is going to be a life changer for this person, because I know I can get all this working more happily, and I know there are multiple benefits that kind of spin off of that. At the doctor, she'd been given antacids, prescribed antacids, which hadn't helped. In fact, my sense was that they perhaps made things a bit worse, because at her age, very common to not have enough stomach acid. And I think the doctor was misinterpreting what was going on, because she is, when she eats, getting a bit of heartburn. So he thinks, well, let's calm the acid down. But in fact, when you do that, then you get even less acid to digest the food in the ways you need to do it. So I think that had actually made things a bit worse. Finally, she'd recently been on antibiotics for her bronchitis. So she had a chest infection, on broad spectrum antibiotics for that. And so that had disturbed her gut flora. So I think there were several things here that immediately leapt out of me as being of concern. And this is what I did about it. Very simply, what I gave her was this formula. In the formula here, we have a mixture of bitters and carminatives, things that are anti-inflammatory, things that are vulnerary, things that are going to take care of all of the things that we've already talked about. And the only herb that's different here is Angelica. I'm a great fan of this herb. It's a celery family herb, and it's very carminative. It's full of oils. It relaxes the nervous system. In the gut, it relaxes the nervous system elsewhere. It kind of lifts the spirits a bit, it relaxes the airways. It keeps infections at bay a little bit in the airways and in the gut. So I just thought that was a nice fit for her, just coming out of bronchitis, because I thought, well, this is going to look after her gut, but it's also going to look after her lungs. And we call it a bit of a lung tonic, so it helps to kind of wake the lungs up and look after those too. Otherwise, the herbs that I've chosen, and this is an actual example from my practice, are exactly the same as what you've already looked at in the first formula. A bit of dandelion root, it's bitter. A bit of chamomile, it's bitter, it's anti-inflammatory, it's carminative, it's vulnerary. Some melissa, relaxing for the nervous system in the gut. Carminative, relaxing the musculature in the gut. And a bit of ginger as well, which gets more rapid onward motion and is carminative and relaxing and warming in the gut. Actually, there's another thing I wanted to add about ginger. So ginger in the gut is beautiful because it's so warm. You taste it in your mouth and it's hot, isn't it? It's hot and pungent. As it travels through the gut, because it's warming, it opens up all the capillaries in the gut, draws your blood back into it, and that helps us then to wake the body up and remind it, oh yeah, let's not fly off and send the blood to other places. Let's bring it back to the gut. Then we're more in this rest and digest mode and everything proceeds a bit more happily. So that's what I gave her. And I've done it a million times. Well, not a million, hundreds of times anyway, with people over the years. And I dosed it exactly how I described to you before, 5 mils 3 times a day. Here with a little bit of warm water. I think warm water is key for her, just to again encourage more blood into the gut and get things moving there. I got her to take it 3 times a day, once before every meal. So I sent her off with that. I also gave her some probiotics for her after having had antibiotics, and I gave her a multivitamin because she seemed to be a bit depleted in lots of ways. And I thought, you know, she's not eating enough to catch up. Let's give her some multivits. And off she went. And usually I see my patients again after 2 weeks. So she came back in 2 weeks and she said, I can't believe it. I'm actually eating dinner again and I'm enjoying it and I'm looking forward to my meals. And I wasn't surprised because I've seen it happen so many times. And I think these are relatively easy fixes once you know what the problems are and once you realise what herbs can help. And the kind of formula that I gave you as an example, or that formula or various other variations, are just going to do it every time and make things a lot better. And there's no more indigestion. So we've finished having a look at indigestion. What we're going to do next is look at another common motility problem, and that's nausea. So this one, rather than things getting stuck and a bit sluggish, this time we're thinking about reverse motility as a problem. So let's have a look at that next.